So we have the keynote session on Ethereum versus other platforms, risks and rewards. This is being presented by Mr. Kyle White. He is the angel investor and co-founder of Atom Foundation. He is replacing instead of Yoda. He is not able to make it. So go ahead, Kyle.
Thank you for the introduction, Rajan. And yes, I'll be taking over for Yoda today because, as a lot of the developers we've heard today, crypto doesn't sleep. But unfortunately, us as humans sometimes need to. So first, I kind of wanted to expand on what my goals are in this space. Coming from a very blue collar town here in the United States, there's a disconnect between high finance like blockchain and the everyman and woman. So we heard on our last panel, Marnella, she said it perfectly. Keep it simple and user friendly. So we have to make cryptocurrency and DeFi as easy as possible to understand and use in order to encourage mass adoption. So everything that I invest in and everything that I work on shares that ethos of bringing the ease of use to crypto while encouraging mass adoption. So at Atom Foundation, our main goal is to improve liquidity access to digital assets uh, from traditionally illiquid assets, all with one click. So the foundation's ecosystem supports solutions for decentralized claimless insurance, social currencies, real estate, venture capital, loans, cross-chain networks, which we'll be going over a lot today, and other financial instruments, which kind of positions this foundation to be the future of finance. So I want to say that on a macro level, the biggest risk kind of in business right now is not creating in a decentralized way. So as we're going over the benefits and risks of Ethereum versus other blockchains, initially I do want to say that on that larger scale, it is a risk for a company to not be thinking about decentralization now. And I'm not talking about just creating a token to create a token, but I'm saying you need to think about how you can scale in a decentralized way with tokenomics that are sustainable rather than short-term speculation. And this is going to help Ethereum and other blockchains because the future's going to be interoperable. When we see with the CBDCs coming out here, that they might not all be on the same chain, but banks and countries will need to move money within each other and between each other, just as us as people will have to be able to move currencies. So let's start digging into Ethereum versus other platforms and some of the risks and rewards. So we were lucky enough to start off today's conference with a really great overview of Ethereum from the Consensus leadership team. So I really don't want to bore everyone with some of the technicalities here, and I'm going to try to keep it as high level as possible. Send in questions too if you have them. So we know how burdensome the Ethereum network fees are. We hear it constantly, and the 2.0 hype and everything like that really kind of pushed on this issue of the high network fees and actually the speed as well. So you kind of see roll-ups and layer twos and other networks, vying for that opportunity to reduce cost and improve speed. There's an innumerable amount of blockchains where I would be standing here just listing them all, and everyone would get bored and leave this chat. So while we will work on that premise, I mean, Ethereum still is king for building dApps. That's why it was, Vitalik created it, and that's kind of why it has so much liquidity and volume on it now. In the traditional finance world, they might call this old money. Ethereum's old money. There's $2.2 billion on that blockchain. So, while maybe a maximist of Ethereum may say that the future is only going to have one blockchain because of some of these risks associated with Ethereum, it is going to be that interoperable future, I believe, that I mentioned earlier. So Ethereum, it's like the final boss of smart contracts. Like if we're playing video games, it's the final boss. It's the most powerful one, and it's because of the mind behind it, Vitalik. So he's also critical of some of the shortcomings. I mean, he'll be the first to admit a lot of the platform's shortcomings. But the good thing about Ethereum is that there's so many developers that when developers hear of these struggles, they're all working together to fix these issues. So that's very important when you're looking at comparing a pros and cons list between blockchains. When there's a lot of good developers working on the underlying technology, the underlying blockchain, it's a little bit less liability, and you can have a little greater confidence that eventually, potentially, this blockchain can reach scale. Because when there's a lot of good minds around a problem, that's usually how you can solve something really big. So really, Vitalik's conceptualization of Ethereum built this environment to incentivize those developers from around the world to not only build on the Ethereum blockchain, but to create their own dApps. And some of the issues that I was mentioning earlier, like the time and the fees, we started to see that for ourselves back when CryptoKitties launched in 2019. And that was only 13% of the traffic back then, and it really grinded the blockchain to a halt, and everyone kind of eyes wide open at that point, like, wow, so there are these kind of risks associated with building a project on Ethereum. Because if you had a dApp at that time that was reliant on Ethereum, when CryptoKitties had this huge spike in traffic, your business would have grinded to a halt. And we're talking about crypto's benefits as being 24/7. A scenario like this, it's not necessarily 24/7. You feel like everything's delayed. I mean, think about Signal. Everyone was freaking out 2 days ago because they couldn't access their Signal account. Well, imagine having a lot of money on the Ethereum blockchain and running into a similar issue. You might kind of feel stuck, and that causes, a risk. And the one thing, since myself, I'm an entrepreneur, investor, so I love, looking at new projects and helping them get to scale. So it's expensive to launch a project with a lot of financial engineering in it on the Ethereum blockchain. So when you're looking at a startup, would you tell them, okay, spend 10 times more to launch on the Ethereum blockchain as opposed to, let's say, a Tron or a Binance Smart Chain, because now that's less money that they could put towards liquidity. That might be 2 months less burn rate now that you lose, because a lot of these times these startups are operating at a loss. And our goal has to be to, push these startups to actually be viable, so we can do what Marinella was saying in the last panel and make it as easy as possible for people to get involved. So we're going over some of the advantages of Ethereum. Largest developer community, huge infrastructure. We're talking about $22 billion of value on this blockchain. It's kind of tried and true. Like I said, old money type of a deal. And it's actually pretty secure. And you have 1.2 million DeFi users already at your fingertips when you're dealing with Ethereum. So let's kind of compare this to Binance Smart Chain. We're going to use some examples here because I think that's a very good way to conceptualize scalability. So Binance Smart Chain, it kind of took a lot of what is very good with Ethereum and just added a little bit of a twist on it by trying to reduce fees and increase speed. So Binance Smart Chain is also an Ethereum virtual machine, which makes it very easy, well, not easy, but makes it more efficient for a company who may have already deployed Ethereum smart contracts or Ethereum platforms to be able to transition and scale to the Binance Smart Chain. So the consensus mechanism is proof of stake authority. So they're taking something very similar to Ethereum delegated proof of stake in 2.0. And what they actually did is they reduced the block time to every 3 seconds to help kind of speed up the protocol, where Ethereum block, I think, is around 20 seconds. So at the same time, they reduced the fees of per unit of gas. So gas is how much it costs to transact from one block within a blockchain. So I think it's down to like 10 GUI per unit of gas. So the Binance Smart Chain was able to bring transactions down to under $1. Where when you're looking at Uniswap, people are paying, upwards of $100 sometimes for a transaction to try to be the first one in there or quickest one in there. And this kind of hurts scalability when you're thinking about maybe a social platform or a company that only wants to get these small investors. Because if you're saying it's so much for a transaction, we're leaving out people in my neck of the woods because they may only have $10 to invest, $50 to invest here. If the transaction fee is $100, it doesn't make sense for them to even participate in DeFi. So Binance Smart Chain kind of took that step of trying to increase the amount of people who can potentially participate in DeFi, with lower risk because there's lower fees. So you're able to actually try something out. So here's a good example. So at Atom Foundation, our first DeFi project that we launched, Jointer, we actually launched it on the Ethereum blockchain. So we launched 52 smart contracts for this platform. It cost us a little under $15,000. This is also back when Ether was only at $300. So geez, imagine if a startup would have been able to see that appreciation instead of spending it just to launch their product. We might not be having to raise as much funds as we do today. So shortly after this launch, Binance launched the Smart Chain. So we came back and talked to developers, looked at a lot of the pros and cons of both chains. Now, one sticking point that the developers kept telling us is, okay, you're running a daily auction here with Jointer. So you need people to interact with the smart contract in multiple ways. For example, downside protection, which protects investors' investments up to 90%, for them to actually unlock their funds from that downside protection and benefit from it. That's a gas cost. So each time you're doing a gas cost on Ethereum, it started to add up. So we're seeing that all the different financial mechanisms that we actually financially engineered into these smart contracts were hindered because of the gas on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, by being able to transfer all 52 of those contracts to Binance, it cost us under $1,000 to launch on the Binance Smart Chain. We had all 52 smart contracts now on the Binance Smart Chain. And instead of investors paying $100 to invest in the auction, they only have to pay a little under $1 in gas to invest in this product. So we've seen that really, really helped us out big time in being able to bring in small fundraisers. So at the same time, as a business development person, as an investor, you're saying, wow, this company now moved to Binance Smart Chain, so they're missing out on the $22 billion of liquidity, on Ethereum. Now that they're missing that. And that's what every project has to really think about when they're choosing a different blockchain to launch on. So this kind of takes us back to that earlier idea of everything having to be interoperable. So we saw this barrier and we said, okay, we know that for this solution to work, it has to be on a blockchain where little transactions aren't going to cost a lot of money. But at the same time, we need to be able to access that Ethereum liquidity. So what we had to build is a bridge. So we had to build this bridge from the Ethereum blockchain to be able to invest into any BEP20 standard token, which is Binance Smart Chain, excuse me, with the click of one button. So that is going back to ease of use. And, the easier you make it from someone to go from one blockchain to another blockchain, you've now not only added value to the second blockchain, but you've now expanded the community that you could access very quickly and very easily. So, and another cool thing too, is you think about Uniswap and all the locked value on there, now with one click of a button, you can move LPs from Uniswap to Binance Smart Chain, where you can benefit from lower transaction fees. So with this in mind, I keep saying interoperability is very important. So when you're looking into blockchains, one very big advantage, And one way to mitigate risk is to make sure that you have a plan in place on how you can interact with other blockchains. So, with the Atom Foundation, we did file for some patents. And some of the patents that we were able to have pending right now is without wrapping, being able to do a one-click swap between BNB and Ethereum. So taking this, the next patent pending is BEP20 and ERC20. Again, without wrapping. So it's one click, very easy, very low gas cost. So through this whole process too, we saw, okay, we can even take something like Bitcoin and we can do a one-click swap with Bitcoin to Ethereum. So you think about the top trading pairs of Bitcoin and Ethereum, being able to one-click interoperability between those two decentralized currencies. We're looking at a DeFi path here, where if you combine Bitcoin's power with Ethereum's power, with BNB's power, you're looking at something really big. People can pick their favorite currency and very easily be able to go between one to the other. So this helps projects kind of build on whichever blockchain is best for them. Maybe Cosmos is best for them. Maybe Hyperledger is best for them. Either way you slice it, the ability to bring liquidity from Ethereum and Bitcoin is extremely important. So another patent that we saw is very important in this space is because so many people use stable coins and Tether. And there's a lot of risk associated with stable coins and Tether, especially as regulation starts coming into the space. So we thought, what if you have the ability to actually freeze the value of a token? So that's what we did. So a patent that's pending right now is the ability to freeze BNB, freeze Ether, freeze Bitcoin, all with one click, and there's zero volatility. So you don't have to go from Ether to the Ethereum version of Tether, which cost you a lot of gas. You're able to do it on this frozen token platform that utilizes Binance Smart Chain. Pay the Binance Smart Chain gas with the small amount of Ethereum as opposed to a large amount, and reduce your own volatility. Another important facet of DeFi and Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain is we're seeing now more complex financially engineered solutions. So as those solutions get more and more complex, that increases the gas cost. So our anti-manipulation solution was a part of those 52 contracts. So that's what kind of made it very expensive for people to invest in the auction. So this patent that we have pending on the anti-manipulation solution actually hindered us on the Ethereum smart chain or smart contract, where when we were on the Binance Smart Chain, now it doesn't affect us, where we have this high gas cost that's passed on to our users, because we want to reduce the barrier for those users and make it easier for them to participate in DeFi, participate in blockchain, to get involved, to kind of break the mold here. So we have a couple more patents. I don't really want to spend time on them, but some of the technology that these patents employ, because we're talking about use cases. How do we make this easy and useful for people in an interoperable sense between all these blockchains? So Jointer, it's our real estate DeFi syndication economy. We actually have a Binance Smart Chain AMM BSwap. We're transitioning to a fully decentralized DAO, because that's extremely important when it comes to regulations, when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to use cases. We also have the Freeze Crypto that I mentioned earlier. We created a whole business around being able to freeze Ethereum. BNB will also launch frozen BTC. We also have SmartSwap, because as we're going back to interoperability, SmartSwap is a zero volatility exchange that allows you to go one click from any blockchain you choose. We're going to start with Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum. We'll move to Bitcoin for Bitcoin itself, obviously, and then we will select other blockchains to integrate into the swap. We also have a cross-chain aggregator that is able to source liquidity from Uniswap in one click, bring it to our BSwap AMM. So this is Deegan Swap. We're redoing that whole cross-chain aggregator right now. We also created Mass Investments, which is a financially engineered decentralized token, which provides uncorrelated returns to cryptocurrency with instant diversification and unlimited liquidity. And as we saw with some of the Libra failures, when you're trying to create a social currency, it has to actually be decentralized and it has to actually protect users' privacy. So with Element Zero, one of our other companies, we developed Zero One, which is a social currency that allows any company to create on it. It's a non-volatile asset. It doesn't do baskets of assets like Libra. And these protocols are all open source. So any brand can create their own, do their own reward program. That way we don't have more useless ICOs or IEOs. And a project we're very passionate about as well. This one is going to be released in Q3 is an insurance protocol. And this insurance protocol, it works to not only cover certain events, but it also allows you to, if your solution happens to be a false event, you're going to get a full refund. So it's claimless insurance that also is able to provide full refunds on any kind of false event. So when it comes to how the future looks, it's going to be all these different companies, not necessarily ours, but all these different developers will build these companies, and they have to be able to interact with one another. You have to be able to go through your insurance to your savings account all with one click, no matter what blockchain. So my time is up here. I really enjoyed going over this stuff with the nice group of people here. If anyone has questions, please feel free to share them in the chat or reach out to me personally. Thanks, Wilhelm.
Questions not forthcoming. Achal, there is. Okay, someone. Okay. Okay, Kyle. We go for the next panel. That's the final panel discussion.
Thank you.
Okay.